Hi, welcome to Smart Programming. I'm Steven. I'm full stack .NET software engineer with an emphasis on ASP.NET MVC as well as web services, live web API. I'm also a technical architect and software trainer. You can follow me on YouTube. The address is here on the screen. In this session, we will discuss about what's Dapper.NET and why Dapper.NET. Let's understand what Dapper is. Dapper.NET is an open source lightweight ORM and owns the title of King of Micro ORM. In terms of speed, and is virtually as fast as using a raw ADO.NET data reader. An ORM is an object relational mapper which is responsible for mapping between database and programming language. Dapper extends the IDB connection by providing useful extension methods to query your database. Object relational mapper has been in use for a long time to eliminate the impedance mismatch that exists between object and data models in an application. Dapper was built keeping performance and ease of use in mind. It provides support for both static and dynamic object body using transaction, using stored procedures, and ad hoc SQL. So why Dapper? Let's say if I have a project coming up in which I need to get the data out of the database and insert into data table on a particular window from the application, there are several ways of doing that. I'm familiar with the first two listed on your screen. One is just to do manually using SQL Data Reader of ADO.NET. Using SQL Data Reader of ADO.NET involves a lot more code to write and a lot of use cases to remember about that Dapper deal with internally without you needing to worry about that. But it isn't actually faster than Dapper. Dapper does a lot of meta programming to store and reuse strategies once it has done what it needs for your query. If you're using provider-specific features that aren't available in raw ADO.NET, for example, parsing, fetching SQL geometry data, those are not directly available in Dapper. You need to implement an interface to tell it how to handle your scenario, but that isn't that hard. Note that the specific SQL geometry example is handled by an additional Dapper library. The other more involved where you make a commitment to use a large ORM like Entity Framework. Basically, it's a full way ORM, but if you just want to run queries without having to find an ORM or pay the overheads associated with an ORM, is pretty great. If you don't know SQL, the raw library like ADO.NET isn't properly for you. But if you want to be in control of the SQL, rather than letting the ORM come up with some interpretation of your intent that has not been optimized, etc., and Dapper might be what you want. To summarize, reason might be you want excellent raw execution performance with minimal overheads. You want to retain control over your SQL. You don't need or want the object tracking features of a full-fat ORM. Okay, let's flip to Visual Studio. First of all, we will design a simple UI that allows you to retrieve customer data from the Northwide database. I want to get data from the customer data table into customer objects. Let's create customer class based on customer structure. And then show it in the data grid. Right now, I'm not showing any data. We're gonna do it in two ways. Firstly, we're going to use the SQL data reader to pull that data out. Follow me as I go through the standard process of pulling data out of the database using ADO.NET. When your application tries to open a connection to the NodeY database, your application must have access to connection string. To avoid entering the string manually on each form, we're going to store it in appconfig file. And then using configuration manager to retrieve it. To use configuration manager utility class, you have to add reference to system.configuration DLL. Okay, done. We declare an attribute to store connection string. And look for the name in the connection string section. First, we need to create an instance of SQL connection class. and pass connection string in constructor of SQL connection. Open method of SQL connection is used to connect to your SQL database. Using SQL command to issue the SQL select statement to the SQL server. Returns an instance of SQL data reader to provide access to the result rows, using while loop to look through all the result rows and mapping to customer objects. By executing SQL reader returns an instance of SQL data reader. And then call it inside constructor. Let's run it. String from us. Okay, customer ID should be in a string data type. Okay, let's run it again. So now you can see that I was successful in pulling data, the data that's in the customer data table, which is customer ID, customer name, contact title, address, and cities. I want to click on Get Data button to load data into Grid instead of loading data from Forms constructor. So I'm going to migrate loading business logic to click event handler of Get Data button. Okay, let's copy it and then paste it right here. Okay, so let's just take a look once more time. You can see this is what I call doing it manually with the SQL data reader. That's a lot of work to do. Let's do that same task again, but this time using Dapper. To use Dapper, we do need to install package Dapper, and the easiest way to do that through NuGet. Type in Dapper. Okay. When you do that, and when you add the appropriate using statement at the top, and then Dapper as extension method onto DB connection, and one of them is query. It's a generic method that take the type of the object that's going to hold the results of your query. So there you can see I put in my simple query. I said the result should get stored into this business object, and then that returns an enumerable of customers in this case, and then I return that. So let's see if it work. Replace it, run it, get data. Okay, it's worked. So you can see that Dapper is taking care of a lot of manual coding. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and have a great day. See you in my upcoming video series. Bye bye.